Okay, so it was requested that I do a few examples on the loops to give you something to, I don't know, to look at, study as an assistance. So I'm going to pick a couple of the homework problems. I'll do a for loop, a while loop. Um, uh, I'll set up a couple of other homework problems. I won't do them complete, but I'll just set up so that you get an idea how they should start. So yeah, so I'll do a couple here in the MATLAB Grader and then some in the standalone version. So on this problem here, problem 9.4, they want to do a while loop to create a vector of the squares of the numbers 1 through 5 and name your results S. So there's several ways that you can go about doing these. This would be how I would attempt it. I'm going to create a vector of 1 through 5, and I'm going to suppress that. And then I'm also going to initiate my index variable, call it k, and set it equal to 1. And then now we're going to get into the while loop. So your while loop needs some conditional statement that can be met through various iterations of the loop. So I'm going to say while my k is less than the length of x, this makes it universal. I can give it any array, and this will work. In this case, it's just going to do the 5 elements that are in x. So to make the output a vector, which we now call an array, we need to assign each element number in S, which is our resultant, by giving it the element increment, which in first time through will be 1. And then we're going to set that equal to the kth element squared. And because that's going to be a scalar value every time through the loop, we don't need to use a dot element. Now, one very, very, very important part of the while loop. If you do not change this in any way, shape, or form, it will just continue on forever and ever and ever and ever, and you have to wait for the grader to time out and say that it couldn't find a result. So I'm going to increment my k value so that each time through, the k gets 1 larger until, and actually I think we probably ought to make this less than or equal to 5, or length k, so that we get the 5th element. And then we need to finish our while loop with an end. And we're going to display our vector when we get done. And hopefully this should work. And there we have it. So 1 squared is 1, 2 is 4, 3 is 9, 4 is 16, 5 is 25. So the takeouts on this here is the while loop needs to have a conditional statement, and you need to change something in this conditional statement so that it's not the same every time through the loop. While loops are generally used when you have no idea how many times you want to run the loop. We knew going in that we needed to run it 5 times, so we could have done a for loop, but this wanted to use a while loop. So any questions on 9.4? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, then we'll move on to 9.5. 9.5 is a for loop. It wants you to use the primes to create all of the primes below 1 and a half for adjacent primes together to find a new vector y. First 4 prime numbers 2, so 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, so this one is going to be interesting in its own manner. So we're going to start here for use of prime functions to get all of the prime numbers below 100. So we're going to spell it right. 100. So that gives us all of our prime numbers. Now we're going to create a for loop and multiply adjacent vectors together and form a new vector. And here's the important part here is that the y vector will have 1 less member than the x vector. Name the index of value for you look. K, we're going to do that just because this is in the grader, and it could be that there's an assessment saying, did you use K? And if you didn't, it may not pass. You shall not pass. Oh, sorry. Um, okay, so we're going to do this in a for loop. I don't think I have to pre-initialize anything. So it says use k is going to be equal to 1, 2, and then we're going to go. This time we're just going to do the length of x because there's going to be just one less value in y. So if we try to go to the actual yeah, -1. If we go to the actual length of that, the calculation will be looking for a variable that's not there. Well, I can explain that more gooder when we get down in here. And yes, more gooder is proper English in my class. So now we need a y variable, and we're going to make this an array, not a 1. We're going to do the kth element. And it's going to be the adjacent. So it's going to be the product of k, element k of x, and we're going to multiply that to the element of k plus 1 of x. The problem I'm having right now is I've been working so much the last few days with the Fibonacci sequence, and they work with creating the vector as we go. And this time the vector is created, and we're just multiplying numbers together. So pardon any pauses that you may witness during this. So this is going to look for each time through the loop, first time through 1, the first element of y will be the first element of x times the second element. Then the next time this will be 2, so the second element will be 2 times the third, and so forth until we get to the length of x minus 1. See, it's got to be minus 1 because it's going to be that value of k times the next one up. And if x was 10, it's going to try and get to the 11th element. There is no 11th element, so we go to the minus 1. And because this is a for loop, we don't have to increment our index variable. It's done automatically for you. So let's see what our output of y looks like. And we got numbers all the way up to 8,663. I'm just going to guess that that's right, because I don't know. Well, we'll come down here and find out. And if we submit this x vector, oh, look at that, all greens. Yay, he did it right. Yay. Okay, so cool. So I guess and this one is the takes from this one is a for loop is generally used when you know how many times you want to use the loop. Not always, because there are some homework problems where it says, set the maximum iterations at 3,000, but put in a midpoint break in there in case you reach some kind of criteria. So those could be done with either a while loop or for loop, but generally when you know how many times you want to run the loop, you'll use the for loop. Not always. It's just a general practice. So don't come sending me nasty emails saying, "Hey, I could use." So anyway, hi. How are you? I'm doing okay. Okay, so now let's look at a couple. Oh, dang! I'm gonna pause. Okay, sorry for that pause there. I didn't have my MATLAB open, and it takes forever for that to load up. So I paused it. I'm going to set up 9 point. I'm going to do that in the grader. It's going to do it in the standalone version, but I'll just get this started. Because some students struggle with this one for one particular reason, and I'll get you going on it, and then let you finish it. So we provide you with the starting line for the function. Set up the while loop for you. You just have to put stuff inside, and then the end. So we do most of the work for you here. But so this is based off of the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci has a ratio of the values of adjacent numbers in the sequence, opposed golden ratio, or phi. So we're going to use a while loop. to calculate the golden rule number, not the golden rule. It's nice to have golden rules too, but this is the golden ratio. So our function should have two, and if it ever says a function, that means it's a user-defined function. If it says write a program, that's just general code inside of an M file, at least in my class. So a function that should accept two numbers as the inputs, which are the first two values in the Fibonacci sequence. And then to use these to find the third value and initiate the while loop. See, this is what a lot of students, they skip this line right here, and then they have problems. So to set this up right, initialize the first two values. So I'm going to use x because that's already down here in this equation here. So my x sub 1 is going to equal a, because that is the first number passed to the function. And then my x sub 2 is going to equal b, because that's the second input argument to the function. Now, if you look at this equation down here, you're looking at x, k of x divided by k of k minus 1 of x, and then k1 minus 1 of x divided by k minus 2 of x. So k has got to be starting in, you got to have at least 3 elements to even enter the while loop. If you don't have 3 elements, it's going to say, well, this is undefined, I can't do it. So you got your k minus 1, and your k minus 2. So, and this, it sounds complex, but it's really quite easy. Just do k3, which we know because it was given to us, is going to be a plus b. So now we know the first 3 elements, and we want this to be calculated on the third element. So we get the third, the second, and the first. So we'll initialize our k to be 3. And now it will be able to calculate this ratio. It'll go in. Now, once it enters the loop, the first thing you want to do is you want to calculate the next element in x, which is not going to be 3. I'll give you a hint. It's going to be 4. Well, how do we make it 4? I will leave that for you to figure out. It's really easy. There's only 2 more lines needed for your function, and then define the function output. And this one here really threw me for a loop first time I did this problem, because we'd been doing it for years and years and years in the standalone version, and it was just show me the loop, the output from loop. But this wants to know what the golden ratio is, and I'll give you a hint. Right here is the golden ratio. K of x divided by k of x minus 1. That value calculated is what the assessment is looking for in the golden ratio fee. Okay, I hope that was all recording. Is the numbers moving? Yeah, numbers moving, so it was recording. Okay, cool. So that gets you a good start on, 6.9? No, 9.8. I wasn't even close. Didn't have no numbers wrong. What are you? Okay. So now I want to work on one more problem for you. It's not assigned, so I can feel justified in doing the whole problem for you. It shows some things. I don't know if it's in the textbook or not. It's been a while since I read the text. I really should read it more often. I'm going to do problem 917. A store owner wants you to write a program for use in the checkout process. The program should prompt the user to enter the cost of the first item, then continue to prompt for additional items until the enter uses 0. 0 means that we're done. And then display the total, prompt for amount from the customer for payment, and then display how much change is received after payment. So we're going to do this in here. I always like starting with clearing the command window and my variables, just so I don't have any carryover errors. So now there's several ways to do this. Again, every problem has more than one possibility. So I'm going to do it the way I did it, which is just slightly differenter than Holly did. Holly, in the solutions in her textbook, prompted for the first one, and then entered the while loop. When I worked the problem before, I did the same thing. I prompted for the first one, and then entered the while loop. And then I worked the problem before, I did the same thing. So checking her solutions. I did it all inside of a single while loop. So that's what I'm going to do because I'm weird. And then I had another variable called more, and I made that 1. I'll show you why I did that in just a second. Okay. Okay, so there's what I need to get into my while loop. So now I'm going to say while um, more is greater than 0, which I established by saying that it equals 1 right here. So I know that it's going to enter my while loop. Okay, so we've entered our while loop. And you guys will never have any idea how many times we've entered this while loop before the final production. That's going to be my little secret. Okay, so we're in here. So now we want to prompt the user to enter the cost of the item. So we're going to create a variable called cost. And we're going to set that equal to an input. Input. And we're going to say, please enter cost of item. And we're going to try and spell it right. And we're going to come down the line just because I like and say to enter 0 to exit, and do a colon and a space and a $sign just for output format, make it look pretty. Okay, and then once they've entered a cost, we want to add that to our total. So we're going to say total is equal to a total plus cost. And then just if we don't, this will run that way, and this will keep running and running and running until the user enters a 0. But it's going to fill up your command window, and I don't like that. This is all personal preference here, so I'm going to clear the command window after every entry. Oh, excuse me, just so that it makes it more clean in the display. That's user preference. Okay, so let's say that the user's gone and entered all of them in there and they're done. They entered a 0. What now? Okay, I'll tell you what now. Next, we're going to use an if statement, and we're going to compare the value of cost. And we're comparing values. You use 2 equal signs. And if it equals 0, then we're going to say that our more is now equal to 0. Okay, so that changes the value of more. So now when it comes up here, it's no longer greater than 0, so it's going to end the while loop. And once that's done, then we're going to display to the user the amount of the final cost. So we're going to say in an fprintf total cost is, and we're going to give them a $sign, and then we'll do our placeholder. I'm going to use a 3 because there's going to be at least a decimal, two decimal point, and 2 places past decimal. So that'll make everything nice and tight against the equal of the $sign. If we do a 0.2 and floating point number, and then I'm also going to do a new line. Once it's in, we're going to do our display of the total. And then we need to do get from the user a payment, how much they're going to pay. So we'll do another input. Input is please enter payment amount, and that will be in dollars. Again, do a space dollars. You know, they're not required. It just makes it look nice is all. And then our final if printf is going to be your. We need there. We need one of those. Whoa, dude! What's with all the capital letters? Your change is and a $sign, and again the floating plate 3 2 F, and we'll do an end line on that one as well. And then we're going to come over here and do a space, and we're going to go payment minus total with 2 T's. And then that should work. Okay, and then we're going to end our if and end our while. So I think mine's probably a little more complex than Holly did. Holly had just this stuff here, and she had while cost was greater than zero. Um, and then that was all in the while loop, and then all this was outside. I don't know. I like to overcomplicate things sometimes. Keeps me on my toes. Now let's see if it works. Let's see if it works. Control Enter. Oh, we didn't get an end of line in there. Dang. So we're going to exit out of this. Zero. Um, I got to do an end of line up here. See, and that puts them on two lines over here so you can read it real nice. Please enter cost of items. So we're going to say $2.99 for the first one, $7.84 for the second one, $6.25 for the next one, and $12.38 for the last one. I mean, you can keep entering as many as you want. I'm just going to stop there. And then the next one is going to be a zero to exit. So now it wants to know our payment amount. If we look over here, we see the total cost is $29.46. So we got to have at least $29. So we'll just round it up to 220s and say $40. Ooh, and it's got a percent sign instead of a dollar. Cool. And then our change is $10.50. And lacking some proper formatting, that is pretty much that problem. It, I don't know. Maybe I made it more complex. What I like to take out you to get it out of this is the loop here for inputs, continuous loop until you're done inputting data. Um, you'll probably need that out in the real world. So I just thought it'd be nice to have some kind of a reference to it. And then the if statement. This stuff on here only had to run after all the costs were run, so that's why I put it inside of the if statement. So anyway, I hope these will help out a little bit. I got some editing to do, and then I'll get them posted and post a link online. Let me know if you have questions.